Please can I ask all members if you will remain standing and join us in a 1-minute silence in recognition for the tragic events in New Zealand earlier. It was Friday, wasn't it? So please join me in a minute's silence. Thank you. Councillor Pandor, would you like to say a few words, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. These are the words that were used when the shooter entered the mosque, which basically means peace be upon you and welcome, in what happened last Friday in New Zealand. This was an act of violence and an act of terrorism, and this has been acknowledged on a worldwide basis. But for some people, this is actually resonating at a local level. In North Kirklees, there are families who have actually got relations that are directly related to the people who were murdered, massacred and shot as they were going about their business about prayer on a Friday. Madam Mayor, we lost 50 brothers and sisters, 50 people who are humans just like you and I. The terrorist massacre at a time of prayer in Al-Noor and Linwood Mosque was the most obscene form of terrorism I've seen. I'm sure many of you will agree with that. And I've got to pay tribute to the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, and I quote what she said on that day. He is a terrorist. He is a criminal. He is an extremist. But he will, when I speak, be nameless. On the day, Madam Mayor, I said that you can say time and time again, and we've seen this on our doorstep, that there is far more in common than what divides us. We've seen terrorism far too much occurring on our doorstep, and the reaction to communities to the assassination that we saw, and the reaction of what happened a few years ago, exactly the same sentiments and feelings are actually resonating that we see in Christchurch. It is the once of defiance, hope and love that we all share and we all come together on. For every person who peddles hatred, there are dozens, thousands, if not millions, who actually oppose that. But it's right that every member of our community feels safe, as we do in this council chamber. Safe from fear of violence, free from fear of those sentiments of racism and hate, and that create an environment where violence can flourish. That's why we must challenge that behaviour when we see. We can change that behaviour, and we owe that to all the victims and their families. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. I have several announcements this evening. I would like to inform Council that Monday, the 25th of March, marks the 150th anniversary of the first meeting of Batley Borough Council, and to pay thanks to West Yorkshire Archive Service, who this week have begun work to restore the unique document which created the Borough of Batley 150 years ago. The Batley Charter is an important part of our democratic heritage, which will be preserved for future generations thanks to our partnership with the Archive Service and the Batley 150 volunteers. This is a bit of an emotional bit now. I would like to give thanks to members who will be retiring from office at the forthcoming elections. And can I just say a big thank you to all of you. And I would like to invite tributes from other members for Councillors Sheard, Hughes, Stuart Turner, Wilson, Holroyd-Dufton and O'Neill.
Sorry, Shabir, did you want to go? Right, sorry. Madam Mayor, I want to say goodbye and thank you to many colleagues for honourable and productive service to local government, not least a close colleague Judith Hughes, but I'll focus on David Sheard. He threatened one of his famous tongue lashings for anyone with the temerity to eulogise his career in the council. In his absence, I will dare to so do. I've known and worked with him for nigh on 38 years, which he's been on the council. He's always been challenging, always amusing, always unusual. He always highlights what might seem trivial to most, but he'll make an important point which nobody else will have thought of. He drives you up the wall with his pedantry, one minute and he has you bursting out laughing the next. He challenges simplistic analysis, lacerates his opponents with regular diatribes, always with good humour and generosity with people, if not their ideas. He's a man of contradictions, a book vendor who loathes to make a profit for tax services. He's an avid reader who scorns culture, an avowed Philistine who can pick out a gem, a heathen Visigoth who hates religion of any sort but defends to the death the right of its various practitioners. He knows every facet of council working, having chaired virtually all of its various different committees. He's been leader, he is deputy leader, he's been chief whip, and from time to time, when he chooses, group clown. He still brings to us all the vigour and life of an airy biker, but the apparent frivolity disguises a serious person with a genuine care, sensitivity and moral core. He remains a credit to local government and this council, which has been his life, a good life, and may long he enjoy it.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. I hope David is watching. He'll be coming through that door any minute.
He'll be here in a minute.
Councillor Pando, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was speaking to David yesterday, and we had a leading members meeting as well, and he said that you don't want all this fuss about him, and won't be tied to anybody who actually makes the fuss. So in some ways, I'm glad he's not actually here today, because otherwise, I don't know if I'd still be standing. But it's only right and proper, Madam Mayor, that we actually do acknowledge the decades of service he's actually given to this council chamber. He's a very valued member of the Labour group. I can't match what Peter said, and I think Peter has said a lot of stuff which I don't want to repeat. And I don't want to actually get a phone call later on tonight saying that I told him not to say anything. So I'm just going to keep it measured. But David has been a massive support, Madam Mayor, not just to me, but to many people in this chamber and to the group as well. And he's a massive personality, and he will be sorely missed. But I'm sure he's not going to retire. I'm sure he'll still be there on the other end of the phone, and I can pick his brain and take his advice. I also want to mention a few other members, Madam Mayor, who actually are not going to stand again. Firstly, starting in my own group, Councillor Judith Hughes. She's not here already. David didn't get that, so yeah. But Madam Mayor, Judith is again somebody who has been around for two terms, 8 years, and she's done a tremendous job in the West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service, especially in the last 4 years and more, with all the challenges around all the cuts and all the austerity stuff that's been happening. And she's been around in a way that all members in my group have actually sort of, I've got a lot of respect for her. And I will miss her personally, because before she became a councillor, Madam Mayor, I got to know her. And she's from the community, her heart's in the community. She understands working class people, she understands their problems. And again, she will be a hard act to follow, and I'm really, really sorry that she's stepping down. But no doubt she will be still around. And good luck to you, Judith, whatever you do. And I'll be there with you. And please do come back, because we want people like Judith who's got a fire in her belly to make things happen. Marianne O'Neill, our ward colleague, she's Peter O'Neill's daughter. Many of you will know Peter, who was a hard-working local ward councillor. Unfortunately, he died, more or less straight after he stood down. But it was really pleasing that Mariel actually took his seat after due process, and Mariel sort of like brought a new flair to Batley, being a younger member in our team. But we are also replacing her with another younger member. But Mariel, again, she's done a lot of work around the fair trade work with Councillor Julie Stewart-Turner. And again, I'm sorry to see her go, but I understand that she has to sort of make decisions, and is pursuing a career in teaching. So I can't see behind me in my head. I've got to turn right round, but I wish her all the best in her endeavours to become a teacher. And Edgar Holroyd Dufton, who is also one of my members, and he will be standing down as well. I understand his health is not as good as it can be, and I wish him all the best for a good future. Julie Stewart-Turner, Madam Mayor, I actually got elected at the same time as Julie in 2002, and you still look the same. You've got to tell me what you do. Is it olive Julie? Because, Madam Mayor, while she's got younger, all my black hair and my full body hair has disappeared. I'm going grey, and I'm getting a bit of a double chin, and Julie still looks the same, so you've got to tell me what you do. It must be the hard work she does. But Madam Mayor, she's such a breath of fresh air. She's one of the best councillors I've seen in terms of the work she's doing, and the work she's done on the fair trade stuff, right? Yeah, it's impeccable. She's also been the mayor, and she did a wonderful job as the mayor. And again, Julie, generally speaking, I really miss you, because she has supported me over the last 2 years. Somebody who could see sense and who could actually see what I was actually going through, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Councillor Gemma Wilson. I understand she's not here, but again, she's stepping down, and it's only right and proper, Madam Mayor, that we actually say, farewell to her and all the best for the future in whatever endeavours she wishes to carry on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Councillor Sims, please.
Madam Mayor, fellow councillors, I first met David in 1988 when I was elected to this council. I think he was elected about 1982, although he's been on and off in between that. He was chair of the Environment Committee and I think the Peace Committee in the heady days of ban the bomb, nuclear-free zones in Kirklees Metropolitan Council. As a person, he was a likeable chap, and we got on well out of the political arena. However, once he entered the political arena, he was a Rottweiler. I think he also holds the record for the shortest committee meeting ever. I think it was about 15 minutes, where it did the job, what was on the paper, and it was all over and done and dusted. However, sometimes we saw eye to eye and worked well together. When this happened, when we worked well together, and this actually happened. David, I wish you well on your retirement. and hope that you'll fulfil your dreams of riding your Harley on Route 66 into the sunset. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sims. Councillor David Hall, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a few words. First of all, to Councillor Stuart Turner, it's been a pleasure to work with you, and very best for your well, we shouldn't call it retirement, because I'm sure you're going to be just as busy as when you. But it has been a pleasure to work with you. Always courteous, and I know that, you know, as a colleague, when we started off some of my first scrutiny experiences, we always worked very well together, and I know you've achieved an awful lot for your ward. So, very best for your retirement and good luck. To Councillor Sheard, I knew Councillor Sheard before I was on the council. Yes, we're all scared of him. But he was very encouraging when I first joined the council, and for that I do thank him, and for his service over many years. And I think mostly I'll miss his humour, because he has the same sense of humour as I do. Whenever he stands to speak, you know there's always going to be a little nugget of humour in there, which always did make me smile. And his vast array of opinions, his opinions on ice cream, brass bands, religion, sheep, children, Conservatives. He's always liked to give his opinion on Conservatives. And no, he wouldn't like us talking a lot about him, because he wasn't in it for anything other than public service, really. But we did have a conversation once when we said, you know, what's it all about? One of these deep conversations we're having. And I said, well, you know, are you ever going to put him to be mayor? And I think his reply was something along the lines of, not on your Nelly, never in a month of Sundays. And I said, well, it'd be nice, wouldn't it, perhaps to just have your name on a brass plaque when you're retired. And he said, yes, he said, but the only name you'll ever have on a brass plaque's on your coffin. Which is a typical David response to what might have been a silly question. But we did work together very well, particularly in area committee, where we put politics aside across all the parties at that time. We had 4 parties on the area committee, and we all worked well together. And that was just the way that he worked and the way we like to work. The council chamber will be a different place without David. No doubt we will see a difference. But I do hope that he enjoys his retirement, because he deserves it. And to the other councillors that are retiring as well, the very best of luck to you. Thank you for your comradeship. Thank you for being good colleagues, and for everything on behalf of your residents. It's quite a commitment, and people don't realise that. So well done, and enjoy your retirements too.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Kendrick, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I probably might not be standing up to speak if that chair had been filled tonight, but I would be fearful. Councillor David Sheard, my ward colleague, has been very clear that he absolutely does not want anyone to speak about his time as a councillor. He despises the idea of, in his words, you lot eulogising about me as if it's my funeral. Therefore, Madam Mayor, I wouldn't dream of speaking about his nearly 38 years as a councillor. Can you imagine that length of time as a councillor? How many councillors in this chamber weren't even born then, or how many were in their infancy? I'd love to put my hand up, but it wouldn't be true. During that time, before some of these people were born, when they were tiny children, David was serving the people of Hetman Wyke and the people of Kirklees. Because of David's views, Madam Mayor, it would be quite remiss of me to speak about the breadth and depth of the knowledge that David has about this borough, the services and this council. It is, quite frankly, Madam Mayor, blooming annoying when I tell David some information and he invariably already knows it. He must have done it, been there and got the T-shirt many, many times because of his vast experience, such as Chair of Housing, Chair of Social Services, Business Manager Leader, Deputy Leader, amongst many other roles, some of which have been mentioned. In paying respect to David's views, Madam Mayor, I cannot talk about his quick-wit and understanding, his consumption of documents at speed, his ability to get to the nub of issues, but I do think I can talk about David being a self-confessed pedant. He cannot help himself, he cannot help but to point out the irregularities and corrections required in documents and in what I and others say. For instance, Heckman White Ward has both Heckman White and Liversedge postcodes within its boundaries. In his desire to be correct, his pedantry is borne out in the name of his bookshop, which is called Not in Heckman White Bookshop. David is through and through a Yorkshire man. It could be said that like sheep are hefted to the hills, David is hefted to Heckman White, or perhaps Liversedge, depending on how pedantic you are. I think apart from his time in the RAF, he's only lived within 1 square mile. No doubt he'll correct me on that. If you Google Not in Heckman White Bookshop, and don't get on your iPads just now, you may find this comment. Not in Heckman White Bookshop does not seek out local history items that are not in Yorkshire. But I can understand there may be others not fortunate enough to be born or live in Yorkshire that may have an interest in where they were born or live. David Sheard has promised me that or threatened me, I'm not sure which, that he intends to complain to local councillors about issues in Heckman White that he hasn't been able to solve for years or for decades. And Madam Mayor, I can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Councillor Lawson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll begin just by saying to all those stepping down this year, thank you very much for your service, and I'm sure your residents will thank you the same. You've done a great service for them. You have a knowledge that possibly most residents don't have, and with that knowledge comes a certain amount of moaning rights. You have the ability now, and nobody can take that away from you, of going, well, they should have done it like this. Okay, so that's kind of a comment for everybody who's stepping down. We have one of our own party members stepping down this time, Councillor Wilson. She served the residents of Lindley Ward for 4 years, first as a Conservative member and then as a Liberal Democrat. She's not taken the decision to stand down lightly, and I know that during her term she was passionate about serving her residents to the best of her ability, but personal reasons have dictated that. Now, moving on to David, I've only really kind of a couple of things really to say about David. One is his generosity. I learnt a lot from David because he would always tell me when I was wrong. And like Councillor Hall has just mentioned, in the days of the area committees, that seemed to be quite a lot, according to David. So I thank him for that. The other thing I would say about David that I would comment about that shone through, that hasn't been mentioned yet, is his passion. And for me, that was revealed when we went to London to talk to the Minister and plead our case against cuts to this borough. And that came through, it shone through. And he was deadly serious about it, and he was inclusive when he asked everybody to join him. And I think that's possibly one of my big memories of him, and I wish him all the best for the future. I'd just like to say thank you to Julie as well. And on your retirement, I think your lasting legacy will be the effect that you've had on scrutiny. Through good and bad times in the council, you've managed to keep scrutiny going and give it an authority. And I think that will be Councillor Stuart Turner's legacy there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Councillor Steve Hall, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. It's only for definite that I know that he ain't here that I'm standing up, because I do know that he throw a bit of a wobbler. I've known David since 1984, and very quickly we became great mates. We met in Ekmond White Library, and over the years we've spent many hours in there doing surgeries, but actually ended up reading just about every reference book that there were in the upstairs of Ekmond White Library, put it well to rights, and so on. Now, one of the things is having a good mate like David is, I'm 58, and believe it or not, I'm the youngest one in the crowd that we go around with, which is Viv's a nice woman, but she's a little bit older than what I am. One of the things is, I think, with David, we once had to throw a game of pool because there were two blokes that we were playing, and they looked pretty bloody awful, actually. I thought that it was going to be a case of which winger are we going through. So we actually tried throwing games of pool, and you know, when you try, anybody that's played, you'll try doing trick shots or making the ball go around our table and our cushions, and every time we did it, we sunk a ball. And it ended up where we managed to get somebody to ring us phone, and we went out, somebody's pool it, we've got to go. That used to happen at election time, like about now. Now, there were one year, Robert Town and Artsed used to be in our ward. And it was a really hot, sunny day. David was well dressed. He had his bush hat on, T-shirt, pair of shorts, pair of Viking boots, a red lace in one boot and a yellow lace in another boot. Went up to this house, went to the gate, leaflet, gate, letterbox, and I watched him. And there's a bloke stood at the corner of his garden with a rake in his hand. And what he'd actually been doing, he'd been raking his lawn, ready to put new seeds down. And all you could see was, might be a big bloke, David, but apparently he's only got small feet. That's what I've been told. He had these boots on, which were only size 7 boots, but all you could see across the middle of this, what supposedly was going to be a new lawn, were all these boot marks. I thought, Christ almighty. And he just says, oh, I don't think I'll be getting his vote. I can tell you won't be. For me, myself, it's going to be strange being at Kirklees without David, although we did have a period once when he did lose in Ekmond White. I carried on, then I'd had enough. I stood down, David come back, and we've been on all 19 years I've done. I think 17 years of it has been with him. He's learnt me a lot. There's no two ways about it. We've had loads of laughs, throughout. I think when Viv got on, I think she was somewhat taken aback by me and David, thinking, how the hell do these two get done what they do, and the way that the laughs that they have with officers, but yet still get things done. So I'll miss David a lot, but that said, he's only that end of the road from me, so happy retirement, David, and also to Judith, who I've got to know over the last few years. I do think you'd win if you'd stop. So, and to everybody else that's standing, I know it's hard. That's why I took 8 years out of being a councillor, because to be honest with you, it was driving me around the twist. And I've come back and done another 11. So, have a happy retirement, everybody, and keep fit and well.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Cooper, please.
Before I say a few words about Julie, a few words about David Shear. I mean, one of the characteristics, I think, of David, he's very humble, I think. He is, one of the great things about him is he's probably the loudest humble person I've ever come across. But he's very into public service. He's not for himself. He's very much, that's very much what he's about, and that's really come across in the years I've worked with him. So great guy, loved working with him. Julie, well, he's crikey. Going back, it's been a long journey. 2001, I think it was, when I knocked on your door and we sat in your kitchen, and I put this idea to Julie, and she was there, and she could see it ticking out. I think you agreed fairly quickly to it, as I remember. But one of the reasons we went to Julie when Nick Harvey stood down was because she'd been fighting to save the local village green, Lockwood Village Green, which is still a village green and probably will be for the next 100 years or so. And we thought, we want her on our side because she was great. And you thought, that is exactly the sort of person you want on the local council. And the rest, if you like, is history. So much the first Green woman elected to Kirklees, the first Green Party mayor of Kirklees, the first chair of scrutiny for the Green Party. And all those things, and all the things that she's actually achieved, all the work on fair trade, the championing of local food. But in many ways, it's as with many, but I've seen all the things that Julie's done. It's all the individual help, all those people out there who you'll knock on the door of somebody and say, "Oh yeah, Julie helped me with that. Julie sorted that out." And you think about all those individual lives in the community where things are different, where things have changed. So for all the positions and all the detail and all the thoroughness and all the work that's done, it's that which is the biggest legacy, I think, of members. And we know that Julie is not going anywhere. She remains the chair of the News and Ward Community Forum, and I'm pretty sure that she's going to make sure that those councillors do what they should be doing. Oh God! And that'll be great. So continue doing what you do, and thank you for everything.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Allison, please.
Thank you. Hopefully this bit will go as planned. But as you've already heard from Andrew, Julie has achieved many, many things since she was elected, all of which, as a group, we are so proud of what you've achieved. I personally want to thank you for all the help you've given me since I was elected. So thank you. And these are just a small gesture of our love for Julie. So thank you.
Can I just add that Ken and I were in London last night, and this morning when we were in a taxi going to the station at 9 o'clock, the taxi driver asked me what I did. And when I told him that I was a local government councillor, I actually thought he was going to crash the car because he let go of the wheel and he went, "Why do you want to do that?" And he says, all the hassle you get. But I think we're all in agreement that it's that we care about people, we care about our environment, and we care about everyone in our communities. So good luck to all of you that decided. I know it wasn't easy for some of you to say goodbye to us, but all the best. Thank you. Members, I will be having a short break, hopefully at 7 p.m. Please can I ask that you partake in cake, which is in the hospitality room. I would be kindly asking you, though, to give a small donation to the Mayor's charity appeal. And as I say at every council meeting, and this is my last one, and I will be saying it again, please, please show respect to all members, just like you've done now. Why can't you keep being like that all the time? And I hope that there's no drawing pins on people's seats following last full council when people were bobbing up and down all the time. Please, please do show respect, be on your best behaviour. Thank you. I'm now going to pass over to the Chief Executive.
Madam Mayor, I'll try and behave well. Okay, and this gives me a great pleasure to make this announcement. It's very rare that the announcements I make are interesting in any shape or form, so I'm going to make the most of this. So, for any local authority, the arrival of a Children's Commissioner signals the start of a challenging time, none more so than here. But since Eleanor Brazil's arrival in December 2016, she has become a real champion and advocate for Kirklees, supporting us through what is probably the most significant period of change the Council has faced for a decade. Eleanor has been a true partner. She has offered advice, support, she's been honest, she's been challenging, she's done everything she needed to do at every stage to make sure that we were improving our children's services. She's been a link with the DFE, she's helped us manage that relationship with Ofsted, and she's established and chaired the Children's Improvement Board in a way that has added dignity to a really difficult process. She's stuck with us when we couldn't provide information. She's made sure that we've kind of improved the way that we've monitored and managed children's services. And she's put children in Kirklees at the heart of everything that we do and that what she's done. She has been no pushover in that process, as I'm sure you can all imagine. Her innovative thinking and strong leadership was key in the development of our partnership with Leeds City Council. And I can genuinely tell you this, members, I think without Eleanor's intervention, we would not be responsible for children's services today. A partnership with Leeds that has resulted in a change in both culture and working practices, not only in children's services, but genuinely right across the organisation and the wider partnership. Whilst Eleanor's departure is symbolic of a positive stage of our improvement journey, I will be very sad to say goodbye to her, as I know many of you will too. On a very personal note, Eleanor has been fabulous support to me, a very new Chief Exec, joining the organisation as Chief Exec at its most challenging time. And genuinely at times there have been times when I thought I couldn't have done it without her. So I would like to thank Eleanor, not only on behalf of myself, but on behalf of all of the officers and all of the members of this council.
Thank you. Any comments? Anybody want to add anything to that? Councillor Pandor, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I met Eleanor more or less when she first came to help us out with our improvement journey around children's services. And I suspect that she was wondering, God, I'm coming to another authority where children's services need a lot of help. And how will these bunch of councils behave? Because I do know that every place is different, every borough is different, and the reaction of members is very different as well. So I actually sort of was thinking, oh God, I hope she thinks that we're a good bunch of councillors and we actually are in it to actually make an improvement for all our children. And I think very early on she realised that all the councillors in this council chamber, all the leaders in this chamber, were up for the challenge. We reflected and we were learning very, very quickly, and we needed that help and support. And at the same time, we wanted to get the messages in our minds that we have to listen to somebody who's got some professionalism, experience, and who also understood members. And I think that was the key thing for me. She understood what members were going through, she understood where we were trying to actually make a difference, and she managed to actually get that balance right at a very early stage. And I really believe that that was the turning point for this council, and that's why we've actually had two very good lead members. Erin Hill did a lot of great work, and then Erin had to then start a young family, and then Viv came and took the helm, and Eleanor Brazil was there throughout. And it's with a heavy heart that I have to say that, farewell. But I think she's made some good friends in this authority. She's made good friends with myself and many members across this chamber. And I wish her farewell. You feel like farewell to everybody today. But genuinely, Madam Mayor, we would not have been where we are today in terms of our journey without the help of Eleanor. And I'm quite confident that the journey will continue, and when we get the full inspection from Ofsted, whenever that may be, I'm quite confident that we will be in a lot better place than we were a few years ago. So once again, thank you, Eleanor, for all the great work you've done, and the challenges you brought and got us to think out of the box. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Pando. Councillor David Hall, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to associate myself with the comments that Councillor Pando has just made. It's no mean feat to be parachuted into a council, to work with officers you don't know, to work with members you don't know, in a political environment you're not familiar with, and to try and tackle a problem which is not of your own making and which is enormous in its scale. So she has done a great job for us. I know that she's been very forthright and hard-working. She's forged relationships across this council which have proved fruitful, and we owe her a debt of gratitude. And our thanks to her as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Lawson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I echo what's been said in the room and offer this group's thanks to Eleanor Brazil. I wasn't at the centre of the work that she did when it began, but I've seen the results. We've come from a point where Children's Services was in all sorts of difficulties to a place where now we can have confidence in our improvement journey and where all the councillors in this room can be confident of the support for their efforts. I think that a large part of Eleanor's success was her ability to build a model that worked for the children of Kirklees. Not a one-size-fits-all government model that was just dropped on us, and it wasn't a model that made it easier for Kirklees by any stretch of the imagination. It was a well-structured partnership designed to get Kirklees back on its feet in a safe turnaround time, and that in itself was an achievement. So I'd add the work that Eleanor did, that she started, isn't over. As corporate parents, we all have our own responsibilities to make sure that we continue to keep on top of improvements, scrutinies and outcomes, and ask uncomfortable questions. Don't rely on others to do it. Get involved. And I'm looking at Councillor Kendrick here because this is something that we've discussed on the corporate panel, and it's something that we're very keen on promoting. So, yes, Eleanor Brazil has ended her involvement with Kirklees, believes that valuable legacy of a confident service equipped for the task. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Councillor Kendrick, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to say, when Councillor Hill selfishly went off on maternity leave and I got gifted Children's Services, I wasn't necessarily a happy bunny, and the first time I was due to meet Eleanor Brazil, I have to confess, I was pretty scared. I had no idea what this commissioner would be like, and I was thinking, what on earth do I know? I can only say she has been the greatest support I could ever ask for, the greatest encourager. Still challenges me, and when I ask really stupid questions at the improvement board, she doesn't patronise me, but she does say, no, it's an absolutely good question to ask. So I do feel patronised occasionally by that. Tomorrow morning is my last meeting with Eleanor Brazil, which will be quite sad, really. And again, I'm scared, because it feels like the lifeline that I've been holding on to, the expert that can advise and direct and show me the way, is disappearing. It's like losing my mummy, which is really rude to Eleanor, because I'm pretty sure I'm a damn sight older than her. I can only say thank you for the guidance and support and encouragement she's given me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Councillor Hill, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think just quickly to echo what's already been said, particularly Councillor Kendrick's comments about the stupid questions. I think I probably shared much of what others have said about when we were first told that we were getting a commissioner, and then when she arrived, kind of not really knowing what that would entail, not really knowing whether this was somebody who was coming to kind of check us out, or whether, you know, it was going to be confrontational or friendly, or how that was particularly going to pan out. And I think that very quickly became clear that she was here to support us in the most productive of ways. And I would echo all the comments that have been said about her innovative thinking, her ability to find a way through what was a really, really difficult situation. I think the only thing I would add was that the one thing that she always did was question how what we were doing affected children. And I think when you're working in that sounds really stupid, but when you're working in such a regulated area that's so complex with so many formalities and targets to meet and the language of inspections and frameworks and sections and this and that can go amiss. And I think that was really, really helpful that she never let that go amiss. She never let that slip. And even when sometimes everyone else in the room was going, oh, but how does this affect the section and how are we meeting this and how are we meeting that? Eleanor was always very clear about, and how does it affect children? And if there's one thing that I think we as an authority should have taken away from her time here, it's to never stop asking that question. So I'd absolutely echo everyone else's comments and thanks to Eleanor for the work she's done, and hope that it really is to be seen in Kirklees in the very long term. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Eleanor, would you like to come on down? We'd just like to present you with a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you. I mean, I feel incredibly humble. All I've done is my job. It is a very odd job when people ask you what you do and you say you're a commissioner, they think you buy things. So it is a strange role. I really appreciate all the comments, but what I would say, and why I wanted to say something, is the difference between where Kirklees is now from where you were 2.5 years ago when I had my first very daunting meeting. I felt as scared stiff as everybody else. Is enormous. The difference is huge. And yeah, I mean, I've played a little part in helping people think things through and have some confidence to do things differently, and helped bring leads round the table when they were needed. But it's right, my contract comes to an end at the end of March. The government don't want to renew it, don't see any need to renew it, neither do I. And I have put in writing to the Minister for Children and Families that Kirklees is in a good place, and I feel very confident that when Ofsted return, no pressure, Mel, that the outcome will be good. It maybe requires improvement in some areas, but it is certainly by no means inadequate. And what does that mean? Well, thank you, Erin, for your comments, because what that means is your most vulnerable children are getting support when they need it, more quickly, better, and that is exactly where you want to be. Finally, I'd want to say thank you to officers and members here who have absolutely supported me in what is quite a difficult role sometimes. And Jackie is the most fabulous chief executive I've ever worked with, and she hasn't paid me to say that, and I've worked with a lot of chief executives. And Tina over there, who's been behind the scenes giving me all the support and some of the information I needed at important times. The members I've worked with, and particularly Councillor Hill and Councillor Kendrick, who passion for children has shone through and just needed, I think, a bit of support to find a way through. But you absolutely don't need me. You've got good people here. You needn't be worried. There's enough good advice around. I always am at the end of a phone. So thank you all very much.
Item 2. It's like I've got news for you, isn't it? Are there any apologies for absence this evening? Councillor Sokill, please.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I got few apologies, but most of the apology from my group is due to illness. Some of them very serious. They are still under hospital treatment. Councillor Paul Kane, who spent a long time in the hospital and is resting at home now. Councillor Devashir, now very well. Councillor Nausheen Dad, I think she is in the hospital. And Councillor Muskan and Councillor Edgar Holbright, he is still under treatment, yeah. And Councillor Mumtaz Hussain, our deputy mayor, I got a phone call from him on this Sunday morning. His father-in-law passed away in Pakistan, who was in holiday, and he had to support his wife, Noreen, to travel to Pakistan, and he's coming back on, I think, on 27, next Wednesday. Madam Mayor, I'm really grateful. Some of my colleagues who are here, Councillor Aaron Hill, Councillor Nahid Mehta, and Councillor Manisha Kaushik, all of three is now feeling well, but they still turn up this important meeting. So it's really show their commitment to the council business. Thank you. Sorry, no. Madam Mayor, I think I missed it. Devashir. Yeah, I said Devashir, yeah. Devashir, he wasn't well on Monday. So we got these apologies. Thank you very much, ma'am.
It's turning into a doctor's waiting room instead of a council chamber. Thank you, Councillor Salkill. Councillor Patrick, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one apology from Councillor Michael Watson, but I can tell you that we are all very well.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Burke, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Gemma Wilson and Councillor Kath Pinnock.
Thank you, Councillor Burke. Item 3. I move that the minutes of the meeting of Council held on 13th of February and 27th of February be approved as a correct record. Councillor Griffiths.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I have been accused by my nearest and dearest of interfering with things when I'm not there. And so it appears on the 27th of February, where I appear to have voted without being on the attendance list. Anyway, there we are. Can I be put on, please?
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Firth. Councillor Mehta?
I've just noticed on the list of attendees, Councillor Nell Griffiths is down as present. Okay, 27. Sorry.
Please, can we now vote by show of hands? Thank you, that is carried. Item 4, members who have any interest should disclose their interest now. Are there any interest to declare? If you should have, can I remind members who have declared an interest to complete the form and submit to the clerk by the end of the meeting. Item 5, petitions from members of the council. Are there any petitions this evening? No petitions, thank you. Item 6, to receive deputations or petitions from members of the public. And I believe we have one deputation this evening. Welcome to the meeting. Please can you introduce yourself and subject matter of your deputation, and you have 5 minutes to present your deputation.
Good afternoon everyone. My name is Ian Staples. I'm a long-serving member of the Steering Committee for Hands Off HRI, and I've been asked by the campaign to address you today. Thank you for listening to me. Our campaign has now entered its 4th year. You will recall in 2016 the CCG proposed to demolish our hospital, move A&E and leave us with a 64-bed facility at Acre Street. We raised a successful legal challenge against the Hospital Trust, and together with the Joint Health Securities referral to the Independent Reconfiguration Panel, for the first time in its history, they recommended the closure plan to be altered. This was confirmed by Jeremy Hunt. This was a big day for us, but I think we should be all clear that this huge climb down was largely thanks to the huge successful campaign along with the preservance of the Joint Health Security Committee. But these headlines have been misleading. We have saved the building, but the Trust's new proposal, for which they have been earmarked for funding of almost 200 million, will see all acute and emergency services transferred to Calderdale Hospital. They also plan to transfer all acute and emergency staff to Calderdale as well. This will leave us with nothing more than a walk-in centre at A&E and a hospital which rehabilitates patients rather than treat them. We will be faced with the same old issue of having to travel to Halifax for emergency care. This is unacceptable to us, and we hope yourselves. Our campaign intends to fight these proposals. I haven't time to go through into all the details, but we are here to ask for your support. We have already briefed all the Kirklees MPs, and they fully back us. We have been trying to secure support from the council leadership and met with them before Xmas, but have still had no positive result. The main idea we have is to launch a People's Commission into the healthcare provision in this area. A People's Commission is like a grand public inquiry, but one which we organise ourselves. We intend to bring in health professionals, academics, patients, staff and politicians to a full public inquiry to submit evidence to the independent panel of experts. We also hope to pull in legal support. We got the idea from Lewisham Save Our NHS campaign group, which attracted 500 to their event with the help of Michael Mansfield QC. And some of the evidence went on to be used in their successful legal challenge. They received the full backing of the council. Whilst we have continued to be supported by individual councillors, and you passed a motion 3 years ago condemning the original proposal, we are saying you today we cannot any longer undertake this initiative on our own. The council has buildings, backroom staff who could help us pull this off, and of course it would help establish all the evidence you might require to follow through on your long-term plan for Kirklees Hospital. It would also give us the evidence we would need to fight a fresh legal challenge. So we have taken this unusual step of lobbying you again. We felt we all had to let as councillors know what we are proposing, and will hopefully decide to support us. We have written to you all individually, we have spoken to all the party leaders, and we know the MPs are meeting with your leaderships on Friday. We don't think we are asking a lot, and are so far disappointed we have heard nothing back from the council since our meeting 3 months ago. We are not even asking you to organise this event, just to offer our support, your support. Time is running out for the hospital, and we need a decision very soon. If we have to, we will do it on our own, but it would not look good for Kirklees stood back and let the others carry on the fighting. So we don't come here with any political agenda. Of course, we are a pan-political group. So far, we have pulled together a small team of experts, and we're ready to get started on this project, and we continue to get excellent support from Lewisham. But we are held up waiting for your decision. We hope some of you can also get involved, as this will not solely be a hands-off HRI campaign, but one which is organised by the independent health and legal experts. We urge you to get behind this idea. Let's shake up this trust again. Let's send a message to the local people that this issue is alive and kicking, and let's finish what we all started in 2016 and save all hospital services in this area. Thank you.
Councillor Sandor, please.
Thank you for your deputation. I'll start with the final point in terms of all hospital services that you mentioned. I don't think anybody in this council chamber would disagree with keeping any A&E or any acute service running in any hospital, be it in North Kirklees or South Kirklees. And it's something that this chamber is really passionate about. We actually did submit on a cross-party basis our plan, which you are well aware of, and I'm really pleased that you were fully supporting our proposal. But unfortunately, that didn't get traction the way we wanted to with the Minister. And that plan, although hospital services are critical for the well-being of all our residents, it's also about primary care, it's also about community services, mental health, and the white elephant in the room is adult social care, because we have been on a national basis there's a funding crisis, and we continue to lobby that prevention at the outset will actually stop a lot of that ill health and the gap in inequalities, health inequalities. It will actually do a lot in terms of outcomes if we actually invest in adult social care. So the plight you make, I think, is a really good plight, and I think what I would do is actually, want to understand more about the People's Commission. So what I think that we need to do is actually sort of like get together and see exactly how that can actually shape the future, and how we as a council can support where we can, and be very upfront with you what we can do, what we can't do. I commend what you're doing. It's a really great campaign. You and other campaign groups are running, and we need a conversation in terms of how we can actually start to actually work together for the benefit of all our residents across North and South Kirklees. It's not just about Huddersfield. It's also about Batley and Dewsbury. Thank you very much.
Thank you for attending to present your deputation. Thank you. Are there any petitions this evening? No. No petitions. Thank you. Item 7, questions by members of the public. Are there any questions by members of the public this evening? No questions. Thank you. Item 8. Homeless and rough sleeping strategy is to be deferred until the next ordinary meeting of Council, as the strategy has not been appended to the published agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing my comment. I understand the reasons why this has been deferred, and yes, they are valid. If papers have not been circulated, then absolutely we should be deferring. I would ask, though, what impact this would have on the delivery and development of an action plan, if any. I don't know if there's anybody in the room who can answer that. Thank you.
Chief Executive, thank you.
Okay, apologies members for the deferment of this paper, but it is important through due process that the fact that it wasn't attached, we need to go back around the loop. I will bring back with the report the impact of having it deferred. I think we'll be able to make up the time that we'll have lost, to be honest, but I'll make sure that's clear in the report.
Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's a point akin to Councillor Lawson's, as both of us attended Cabinet yesterday to contribute to this matter. I would appreciate that the Chief Exec says she'll bring back a report. Perhaps the Cabinet member can give us an update, and if we can have something that's back at Cabinet, rather than waiting for the next meeting of Council to show what the impact is, if we can have something back at Cabinet to say what the impact of implementing the delay will be. And I see Councillor Scott nodding and hope that she can give us that assurance.
Councillor Scott, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I equally am disappointed that the strategy wasn't attached. We will be bringing it back to Cabinet with the updates and progress and the impact that has happened. It is disappointing, and I know there's been a lot of work done on this, across party contribution and scrutiny in particular. You know, I've got to commend scrutiny for the work that they've done. All we can do is apologise at this time. Bear with us. I will come back with the impact statement to you at Cabinet, and it will come to new Council. And what better way to start a new year, fresh year, with a positive news story of what we're going to do within this chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Pandor, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And, I fully appreciate what Councillor Lawson and Councillor Bott have said. And if there's a way to actually expedite the process, because I think the action plan and delivery of such an important issue is so important. So I ask the Chief Executive if we can go away and see if we can speed that process up, because I think the appetite is there to make it work. And if it means that it can go to the Cabinet, and if this chamber is so willing to back that proposal, which I think it is, then I don't have a problem with that, Madam Mayor.
Just going to bring the Chief Executive back in.
Members, just kind of on reflection, I think because everybody's keen that we get on with the delivery, it's quite important that we do take something to Cabinet and actually get Cabinet to approve the initial stuff, so that we can make sure that we're delivering against that, and then bring a fuller report back to Council.
Councillor Bott.
On that vein then, Madam Mayor, could I seek guidance that we can suspend standing orders to enable that reference and delegation back to Cabinet? That obviously, I think we've got consensus around the chamber that we want to see this enacted. So if it's a Council decision, can Council vote today to delegate that responsibility to Cabinet? And obviously, as some of us did yesterday, if members have any point, then they can go there. I think, yeah, we should be able to delegate that responsibility.
Just for clarification, it's part of the Council's policy framework and therefore not something that falls within the area of responsibility of the Council's executive, i.e. Cabinet, so we can't do that. But, having said that, I think the intention will be that we'll bring a report back as soon as possible that will set out action that can be taken prior to the decision finally being taken at the Council meeting in July.
Councillor Scott, did you want to come back in?
Yeah, part of the directive was this strategy has to go online on the Council's site by December 2019. And I understand what Councillor Bolt is saying. However, it's a directive, it's to be endorsed by this chamber. So taking it back to Cabinet, I will update you, but it's this chamber that decides. And you need to read the strategy. It's important that you read this strategy.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. So we do need to vote on the deferral, but I need a proposer and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Panda. Councillor Scott. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, you can't have a proposal, but I propose that we vote on what we've just said.
I proposed but I need a proposer and a seconder.
Can I clarify, Madam Mayor? I propose that we defer this item for it to be referred back to Cabinet, and the report then is coming back to this Council chamber in July, so then we can actually make sure due process is followed. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So I've had a proposal, I've had a seconder. Please can we move to the vote? Show of hands. Thank you, that's carried. Thank you, Member. Item 9, page 23, Kirklees Economic Strategy. Councillor McBride, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Kirklees Economic Strategy is an aspiration, but it's much more an analysis and commitment to develop the local economy, taking account of the challenges we face and the potential we have in the area. It's a strategy which represents what we've been doing for the last few years and what we know we can achieve in the near future. It highlights and prioritises the main factors which we believe drive the economy and affect the well-being of the whole population. And these are the skills of our people, support for key sectors of industry, our transport and connectivity, the vitality of our main towns and townships, and the need to work with stakeholder partners, not least of which is the community as a whole. What we're doing and will do is spelt out in the strategy, and it gives a timescale and a method of evaluating whether or not we've been successful. And it's different from many other strategies years ago, which are visions which don't say in any way what will be achieved. This is a way of measuring what we say. It demonstrates its relationship to our social values and priorities, to health, to housing, and support for vulnerable people, both young and old. It is so much more than a wish list. It exemplifies all of our initiatives, current and future, which will match our objectives. It is specific about the scale and focus of council investment, what we might presume from city-region investment and national funding, and what we might reasonably expect from the private sector. It also refers to social enterprise support and what we can retain within the local economy, particularly via procurement. In short, it's grounded in reality. Some of the building blocks for the strategy are currently being rolled out as we speak: the Dewsbury Development Framework, the Dewsbury Riverside Master Plan, and the Master Plan for Huddersfield. The local plan, as we know, after a decade, is now in place. Early evidence of success comes back from MIPINS, which Councillor Fando was there last week. I hear from officers that there was huge interest in our housing opportunities and great demand for our employment land. The key infrastructure proposals are confirmed as funded by West Yorkshire. Meanwhile, our partners Network Rail are about to announce an unprecedented commitment to upgrade Transpennine and spend £1 billion in Kirklees and transform our major stations. Consider the opportunities that this will unleash. In the context of these developments, we have an associated skills strategy to ensure that this growth and development is experienced by our present and future workforce. To this end, we are working with the colleges, university, CITB, Network Rail and schools to plan the employment and skills created by the associated demand. We are so ensuring that our people shape their futures in employment by the programme that this strategy presents to this council, which I can wholeheartedly recommend to the council. Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's still on me thunder. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. Is that seconded, please?
Seconded, Madam Mayor, and reserve the right.
Thank you, Councillor Panda. Are there any comments on this matter? Councillor J. Taylor, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I welcome this document and the opportunity to comment on it. I would like to pay my thanks to the officers that have worked hard to produce this for us today. But I'd like to start with a little bit of a grump, if I may. I had one yesterday for those who are at Cabinet. Yeah, I'm turning into a bit grumpy. It's often been said by the Chief Executive the councillors should be at the heart of all we do. Yet it's only a fortnight ago that I got the opportunity and was invited to comment on this strategy. That doesn't feel like being at the heart of it. And that's not really putting us as councillors at the heart of that development. And only yesterday I was invited to a meeting to look at the town centre plans for Huddersfield. And these have similarly been in development for a long time. And there's much talk about all the different people and groups that have been consulted, but not us councillors. I'm afraid, Madam Mayor, this is not what I understood to be the Chief Executive's ambition to mean. And I do wonder if it's an attempt by this administration to exclude all of the councillors, because obviously Councillor McBride and Councillor Pandor know best. I'm sure we can all sleep well in our beds that they are driving the strategy for our district without any input from any of the rest of us. But seriously, Madam Mayor, whilst I have commended the work of the officers that have been put into this strategy, it is a bit like the local plan, lacking in real ambition for our district. There is talk of a new vision and a sense of ambition, and I welcome that. I also welcome that the report recognises that the Labour administration has been lacking in this respect, and this is made explicit in the comments in Appendix 1 under context. I would argue that we have in fact had a missing decade. Whilst our other neighbouring authorities have been developing and delivering for their districts, Kirklees has stagnated, and even now it sees itself as little more than a dormitory for Leeds and looks towards Leeds rather than creating its own distinctive identity at the centre of the powerhouses of Leeds, Manchester and Sheffield. Councillor Bolt made the point at Cabinet yesterday that in Wakefield and other areas they've already built the new roads and infrastructures needed to create the right environment for businesses to thrive and grow and develop. It was very noticeable about this council's lack of ambition in this respect about business growth, that it projected no increase in business rates income during the 3-year budget plans. And given this administration's desire to increase rates by as much as they can, as often as they can, this probably means not business growth, but actual business decline over that plan period. Labour's failures are also shown in the trend in jobs in Kirklees, towards a lower value economy with lower value sectors and jobs. And to be fair to businesses, when faced with the choice between Kirklees and some of its neighbours, why would you choose Kirklees as a base for your growth or your new business? This lack of ambition also flows through to the 5 big wins. You would expect, having what I've said about the trend on jobs, that the big win would be in terms of skills and ambition, would be one that was looking to the higher value sectors, higher wage roles and higher skilled roles. But instead the focus is on integrated care workforce development initiatives. Whilst I understand how crucial it is to support this sector, as we all age as a population, become increasingly reliant on care workers and the role they can play in helping keeping people living independently for longer, we all know that this is a low-waged role. And whilst I recognise the good work that the government is doing in taking more and more low-waged people out of the tax system through increases in the taxable allowance and through significant increases in the minimum wage, these jobs are always destined to be at the lower end of the pay range, which seems at odds with the ambition that's talked about. If I may, Madam Mayor, for a moment be a little parochial, there is little in this strategy other than warm words that adequately address the needs of the rural south of the borough. And we saw this also in the local plan. There is a huge opportunity to position this part of the borough.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
My time up. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bolt, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like Councillor Taylor, I'm disappointed with the outcomes of this, and particularly with the introduction that Councillor McBride gave, when he talked about scale and focus of ambition. The scale and focus was Huddersfield and Dewsbury once again. He has selective praise, claiming that it's Network Rail which are going to invest in the Transpennine route upgrade, but when the announcement's delayed, he blames the Minister, So where's the money coming from? Is it government or is it Network Rail? Because with that comes the blame. You can't attribute them to different ones. The strategy, to anybody reading it, is a misnomer, as has been alluded to. It is not a Kirklees economic strategy. To use Jeremy Corbyn's similar phrase, this is a strategy for the two, not the many, as once again we see millions of pounds invested into Huddersfield and Dewsbury. Madam Mayor, like cuckoos in spring, Labour appear offering money every year. Last year we had £45 million for a cultural quarter in Huddersfield. As if that's not enough, this year they come out with £25 million for a cultural quarter in Huddersfield. According to that, half of Huddersfield is going to be more cultural. Goodness knows what happens to the other half of it. But this is a thing which has been going on for decades. I'm pleased to be able to share, Madam Mayor, with the Council and with those on webcast that going back to 2013, the same Councillor McBride was offering massive investment in North Kirklees by way of a Ravensthorpe relief road. This would unlock the bottleneck which is Dewsbury. We have not seen a single plan, report or a feasibility study or anything for that, for the Ravensthorpe relief road. Madam Mayor, we've seen lots of other bright ideas from Councillor McBride, resurrecting the 1980s Kirklees plan of an M1-M62 link road. But the Ravensthorpe relief road, which would unblock the Dewsbury Riverside, has not appeared. It's further imbalanced, Madam Mayor, in talking about connectivity. If people look on page 10, Kirklees in 2019, connectivity. Kirklees sits at the heart of the north and has aspirations for Huddersfield to have a train service to London. Madam Mayor, it will come as no surprise to anyone in this chamber or the residents of Mirfield when I complain that this is abhorrent. Kirklees has a direct link to London. And when is the leader of this council and his colleagues going to seize that and build the fact that we have this link? We can link to London in 2.5 hours. You don't need to go to Wakefield Westgate, Shabir, when you go into the LGA and spend more time and money doing so. You can go from Mirfield. This jealousy between Huddersfield and Dewsbury against Mirfield has existed since the 1840s. Mirfield got the railway station in 1840. Madam Mayor, that was 10 years before Huddersfield and 8 years before Dewsbury. And they've never let us forget it, the fact that we were there first and we are still doing it better in this day, Madam Mayor. The Kirklees economic strategy refers to the local plan. And it specifies, Madam Mayor, that the assets...
please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It specifies the assets of the local mills. Sorry, Councillor McBride, you've spoken. Will you shut up and let other people do it now?
It's my job to tell people.
Would you? By all means do so, Madam Mayor.
Carry on, Councillor Bowles.
I thought you wanted to tell him off, Madam Mayor. But it's strange, therefore, Madam Mayor, that when Kirklees' local plan and this document refers to the strength of our mills for industry, that the very same Labour members who voted the local plan through and cut short debate a short time ago, then went into the planning committees and argued against the local plan and voted in favour of housing going into an allocation which the officer says on the local plan which you just approved was for industry. How two-faced can they get with this, Madam Mayor? This, like much of the print in it, is fainted and vague, and there's no way I will support this. In case it...
Thank you, Councillor Bolt. Councillor Walker, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Point of information, really. Councillor Taylor says that no members, no councillors have been able to contribute to the discussion around this strategy. That is not correct. The strategy has come to the scrutiny panel on 3 occasions. We've also looked at supporting strategies, looking at things like skills, the digital strategy, the town centre strategy, transport strategy, and so on. And I believe that we've had some extremely robust discussions. We have challenged earlier drafts of the strategy. I think those have led to changes in the strategy. There have been 2 members of your group actively involved in these discussions. There were 2 co-opted members involved in these discussions. One, a small businessman with years, decades of experience of running businesses in the area. The other, the person who has run one of the largest businesses in Kirklees for several years before taking over as chair of the Lawrence Backley Theatre, and is also a prominent person involved with the media centre. So it's not just that we've had scrutiny from councillors, there have also been people from the wider community. There has been an opportunity for every councillor sitting in this chamber to come along to those scrutiny meetings, to listen to these discussions, to take part in those discussions. So you may not be happy with the strategy, but it is not correct that councillors have not had the opportunity to contribute to the discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Members, it's almost 7 o'clock. We're going to have a 20-minute break and continue after the break. No. Yeah, okay, 20-minute break. Cake break. Members, agenda item 21 is submitted as opposition priority business in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 17 and shall therefore be brought forward as the next item. Right, so we're carrying on where we left off, folks. So Councillor Sims is the next person to speak. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, fellow councillors, I am disappointed with this strategy. To me, it's just a Leeds economic strategy, and working particularly well for them, but not for us. It's not our strategies as I read it in a whole. We're not punching above our weight, it seems to me, and we are in a unique position to do that. And this doesn't show up in this strategy. There's also no mechanism, I can't see it, to measure outcomes, and that in a strategy like this is one of the main things that should be in there, so that we can actually measure what they're doing, how they're doing it, and is it cost effective. So therefore, I am disappointed. There are some things in it that I'm okay with and au fait with, but generally, I don't think it's a strategy that really benefits this Kirklees Metropolitan District. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sims. Councillor Murgatroyd, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and thanks to all the officers who helped develop this strategy, because I think, like all complex policies, this is obviously a collective effort, and that's quite an important starting point, because I think one very positive aspect of this strategy is that there's an emphasis on collective action to address some of the serious economic and social issues that face the people of Kirklees. And I'd just like to just mention in particular the local wealth building and inclusive economy strands of the strategy, which actually have massive potential Because as we know, the strategy is aiming to encourage key anchor institutions to make strategic investments, undertake local procurement and encourage businesses and local supply chains. And that will make a real difference. It will actually help trap wealth. So it's local people and local communities that benefit rather than all the money going to multinationals or shareholders in London and elsewhere. But most importantly of all, I think, it actually offers the opportunity for the Council to act as a strategic leader, to encourage progressive outcomes around encouraging better wages, say, and better training opportunities, and promoting genuine social values. And I have to say as well that since we've rightly supported the declaration of a climate emergency in January, there's also massive opportunities with that kind of working with anchor institutions to kind of promote environmental policies and aspirations as well, because I think it cannot be said too many times, social justice and environmental justice do march hand in hand. And this strategy is a process, and it's not just an event, and it's going to allow us, it sets the groundwork to allow us to reach further, get more radical over the coming years, develop new, innovative community wealth building policies at a Kirklees and regional level, and these could include ideas around, say, regional banks, to channel investment locally, a Kirklees cooperative development agency, for example, because, of course, cooperatives are the ideal vehicle for fixing local wealth and promoting social values. So, in that sense, again, that's really welcome, because it's giving us this opportunities moving forward. Now, I just wanted to focus on one specific aspect of the economy, which is increasingly important, and this is covered on pages 64, where you actually look at the action programme on integrated health and care workforce development. And I think Councillor Taylor earlier referred to this. And I'd say, Madam Mayor, this actually highlights the opportunities, but also the challenges and limitations we, as a council, face. Because frontline care workers are actually one of the most undervalued, underpaid and exploited groups, I think, in many ways in our community. They often lack a clear career progression, often on zero-hour contracts, and pay in real terms is often below the minimum wage. So the inevitable result is a high turnover and demoralisation across the sector. And that's obviously bad for the care workers, but it's also bad for the people to whom they are giving care, who above all want people who, will stay the course and they want continuity. So I'm really glad to see that this strategy does address in practical ways measures to improve career paths and above all ensure that care workers are actually treated as professionals, because this is one of the most important jobs that anyone can possibly do. And as part of that, it's also crucial that we face the issue of low pay. And that kind of, that also...
30 seconds, Councillor.
Yeah, okay, and that also highlights, I suppose, the problems, the limitations of any local strategy, because we have a national, even a global economy. So, obviously, as a council, we can only do so much, but this strategy is a great start, and we just need now, all of us, in a positive way, to build locally to really make it happen, to benefit our communities.
Thank you, Councillor Murgatroyd. Councillor Lawson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't actually going to speak on this, but I am going to. Because what I've heard today is there's something missing in today's discussion. Now, Councillor McBride, you spoke about grounded in reality, and I hear you. I hear that you've done the research. I hear that this is evidence-based. I'll get back to you on that in a small moment. I'm just going to go through this. At the moment, any building we do, any structure, any strategy, any kind of plan that we make has a Brexit caveat. There is nothing of that in here. The Conservatives haven't mentioned it, and neither have Labour. Now, this is very worrying. We are 2 weeks out from Brexit. Ask me again whether this is based in reality in 2 weeks' time, whether it is anything else other than a wish list, because let's face it, we are looking at money that is coming from the West Yorkshire Combined Authority. We are looking at money that is coming from specific government pots, and those are taps that can be turned off as well as on very, very quickly, depending on the political situation where we are in 2 weeks or however long the extension is made for. So I think, is it anything more than a wish list? I think it's something more than a wish list, but I think ask me again after we've resolved Brexit and I'll give you a better answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alison. Councillor Pinnock, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I ought to point out that I originally wasn't next to Councillor Lawson in the list, but somebody removed their name. I'd like to back up a lot of what he's just said about the national and international situation. This is stuff we really can't predict, and an economic strategy is always in danger of dealing in platitudes and things like that. Well, it's in danger of doing it. I'm not necessarily saying that it's got platitudes in it, because a lot of hard work has gone into devising what we can say about the future of our economy. Some of what we can say about it was dealt with when we dealt with the local plan, because that's very closely bound up together. But I am not sure that enough future-proofing has gone into this to make sure that we end up at the end of the period, which is mentioned all the way through 2025, and we have got to where we want to be. I'm not convinced that that's actually going to happen. I'm not trying to wish that won't happen, but I'm just saying that because of things beyond our control, and some slightly within our control, like the balance of power within the combined authority, which may or may not work to our advantage. Clearly in the past, Kirklees has punched above its weight for all sorts of reasons, but we have to remember that I was going to say we've got Leeds and Bradford against us, but it's not quite like that, but two big authorities like that, and we're in the middle. I've heard Councillor McBride say on numerous occasions how we sometimes lose out in terms of the transport infrastructure for the bit in the middle. And one has got to worry a little bit about that. And finally, can I make a gripe about the way this is produced? There are too many pages which, admittedly we've got a black and white copy, but there's too many pages you can't actually read. White on black is all right, but white on grey is not all right. Anybody whose eyesight isn't what it might be will struggle to read that. And there is at least one heading that's almost disappeared. And I'm not sure I really like having a document that opens that way. There are some good things in there, but as I say, I'm not sure that we are necessarily fully in control of everything, that we can ensure that what it says in there will actually come to pass.
Thank you, Councillor Pinnock. Councillor Pandor, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to try and address the issue about the grump, Madam Mayor. I think it's a cheap political shot in terms of what Councillor John Taylor started off the debate with, and I take exception to that because he is deliberately misleading this chamber, and he is deliberately misleading the public with the fact that he is saying that nobody's been consulted, Madam Mayor, and I'll come on to that in a minute. He also fails to understand the difference between core cities, which is a government priority in terms of where the investment goes, and the role of key cities. He also fails to completely misunderstand what we are doing at a key city level and our role that we are playing with ministers of his party, trying to actually make sure places like Kirklees and all the towns within that actually get its fair share of the resources. Item 2.16 in the report makes it absolutely clear the amount of work we've done, the amount of work our exceptional officers have done to try to engage with everybody throughout this chamber. We've had a number of sessions where we've actually asked members to engage with, and it's unfortunate that members of his group haven't attended. Having said that, Madam Mayor, Councillor Bill Armour did attend, so I appreciate him attending. But having cheap political shots and trying to actually just get the headlines, doesn't do anything for what we're trying to do in this council chamber. The climate change debate took place, and it was very, very clear that we were trying to engage members from across the chamber. And it's unfortunate that the Conservative group said that we don't be part of it. So what is it that you want us to do? How can we engage you without you actually making cheap political shots? The bottom line, Madam Mayor, is they don't want to engage, and they fail to completely understand what we're trying to do. On the one hand, it's quite disheartening, but at the same time, it is actually heartening because we are doing something right, and that's why they've got no solution, and they're jumping up and down and making cheap political shots. But I didn't really want to say that because I've got some positives about what the strategy is all about. We've got 5 priorities within this strategy. One priority is about modern, innovative businesses. And again, if you look at the detail, that is what we're trying to deliver. Skilled and ambitious people. We are trying to talk the place up, but at the same time, we have put resources behind this, and we've put that resource in our budget. And I would have welcomed some acknowledgement from that. Active partnerships. My colleagues have already talked about that, and I don't want to repeat the detail of that. Advanced connectivity and infrastructure. Now, Martin, I understand that we want Murfield to be the centre of the world, but it's not going to happen. And no matter how much you jump up and down, Martin, right? I accept that, right? Yeah, but let's get something real that we can actually get benefit from, right? Yeah, and move the borough forward. And if that means Murfield to be centre of the universe, right? Yeah, then let's get his government to actually make that happen. And revitalise centres. Again, the budget was very, very clear. We are not just going to invest in Huddersfield or Dewsbury, but town centres and valleys is a priority. So they are the 5 priorities, Madam Mayor. The 5 big wins we're looking at, and again, it's the details in the report. Digital innovation. There is a lot of work we are doing in terms of how we actually connect in digital innovation. And City Fibre are investing a lot of money, a lot of their time through this council, and we will be the best broadband service nationally, right? Yeah, once all that work is delivered. Integrated Care Workforce Development Initiative, my colleague, Councillor Murgatroyd, actually went through that. And again, there's a lot of good work there, a lot of pioneering work in terms of how we can actually get inclusive growth. That means something to our local communities. Kirklees as an anchor network. So it's not just about Kirklees being an anchor, but it's also about the other big institutions. Because what we say in this council chamber, Madam Mayor, if you look at the statistics, there'll be 22 people working, looking at the webcast. But what about the other thousands of people that we actually serve? The 430,000 people we serve. How do we connect with them?
30 seconds, Councillor Pando.
I've got quite a bit to go, but I'll try and, yeah. So we've got 5 priorities, Madam Mayor, 5 wins, yeah. And I hope the Conservative group can actually come back and actually put something of substance, rather than trying to actually get rhetoric that everything's done in secret. It's not. We want to engage with you. When we call you, please come and join us. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pando. Councillor Patrick, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to pick up on a couple of points. The problem with strategies is sometimes what is said isn't actually achieved. And if we look at page 80, Action Programme 12, South Kirklees and Rural Areas, points 3 and 4, Ensuring that there are small-scale business premises and enterprise hubs to enable small business to start up and grow is a fantastic ambition, which I fully support. With focus on use of vacant, underused buildings, including mills. Well, in my ward, all the underused buildings, including mills, have been turned into housing, so there's absolutely no chance for small businesses to start up. In fact, I'll go further than that, and Peter will know that in the local plan, even some of the small mills in my ward that currently have successful businesses operating in them will only be there until the landlord decides he's had enough and he wants to cash in with houses, because there are mills in my ward with successful businesses in them that are down in the local plan for housing. So there's a difference between a visionary thing and a strategy and what is actually happening on the ground. The second thing, ensuring that green infrastructure and natural flood management contribute to Kirklees' goals on health and recreation, the environment, quality of place and flood prevention, again, is a very worthwhile aim or objective. The problem is that what's happening at the moment, where houses are being built and other premises are being built through planning applications and planning permissions, trees are actually being taken out. And I refer to the trees in relation to the natural flood management, because I know that's the point that Labour are pushing. Trees are being taken out in flood zones, and in some circumstances where there are conditions to put back those trees, conditions on the planning permissions to put back those trees or to replace trees with new planting, this is not happening. In fact, I can think of one site that is not in my ward where it's been concreted over. There's absolutely no chance of any trees being planted in there at all. And I am advised by officers that they have a problem in that they don't have enough resources to enforce planning conditions. So anybody that's on a planning committee that thinks they're doing a good job by asking for conditions to be placed upon it should think again, because it seems that we can't deliver on these planning conditions at the moment on some of our sites. In relation to flooding, we've got a site on the top of a hill in Scholes which floods every time it rains. It doesn't have to be a deluge like we had earlier this week. And that is because the drainage has not been sorted out. It's been agreed by Kirklees Council, but it doesn't work. So there's an awful lot of things that we can actually do now on the ground through our services if we want to deliver these aims and objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One thing that I've always been taught reference to strategies is timelines, and I just want to make a single point reference to this strategy. And that is 5 years ago I worked on the York digital strategy for York City Council and was part of the digital team over there that helped York become the #1 digital city in the country. That's 5 years ago. Just over a year after, City Fibre came into Huddersfield. They had offices in Huddersfield. There was 3 staff, tech team, sales team, maps on the wall of the plan for the digital infrastructure of Kirklees. City Fibre have now been in Huddersfield city centre and roaming around Kirklees for 3.5 years. And I have seen very little as far as infrastructure is concerned. I've seen very little infrastructure. I've talked to the team. I know the team very well. And as far as being a #1 digital city, we are so behind the curve in this borough as far as digital infrastructure is concerned for not the residents but the professional residents and the commercial residents of this borough. but it's almost embarrassing out in certain business parks and retail parks that haven't got decent connectivity. And then we talk about being on the ball as far as the digital side. So I've got just 2 points. One is each one of these strategies, which a lot of them, I welcome with open arms. I think there's some good stuff in this content. But I would add timeframes around them so that it's deliverable. And the other thing, if there is inclusion of other parties, I've probably forgotten more about connectivity and telecoms than most people in this council will ever know. So I would put my name forward for any help, assistance, debate, meetings, etc. I'm quite happy to sit down and talk to anybody in council, reference to what we did over in York, Peterborough, Aberdeen, and all the other cities that are so far well in advance as the digital connectivity city than this borough is at this moment in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Cooper, please.
Just a quick point that, again, we're trying to fit a quote into a pint pot with the agenda items and the amount of time we've got. We've got to deal with this. We're not going to get through the agenda. On the strategy, quick things to mention. There's all the stuff about revitalising centres and the things that are important there. I was fortunate to go to Bilbao recently, which has really built itself up over the last 20 years. And one of the things that's really, I looked around the city and thought, what is it that actually makes this a great, vibrant place? And there was a number of things. They had play areas all over the place in the city centre, which was saying to people, this is a place for families. This is a place for families to come to. There was street art and sculpture everywhere, saying that it was a cultural place. There was water fountains for people to use. The whole place was an inviting, vibrant thing. It wasn't simply about shopping. It was actually about a place to actually go to. And I think we've got to think when we're revitalising centres that these are places that have got to be destinations, and we've not got to think purely in economic terms and just shops, because that won't help shops.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor D. Hall, please.
I'm going to support the comments that Councillor Taylor made earlier on about involvement of councillors in this plan. I cannot remember when I've been invited as a ward member for Liversidge and Gummersall being asked to give my views on what I think the economic strategy should be for the Spen Valley. I'm not sure whether other councillors in the Spen Valley have been invited as ward councillors to comment on what they think should happen in the Spen Valley. Councillor Pandor says, we want to work with you. Please come and join us. Why don't you haul yourselves out of Civic 3 and come up to the Spen Valley and talk to the people who are there on the ground who know what's needed in Spen Valley? And this is not just about Spen Valley. This is the rural south. This is up the valleys. This is Batley even, which doesn't get a mention in this particular strategy in front of us. It is still Huddersfield-centric. It is still Dewsbury-centric. It talks of North Kirklees. There's not a mention of any other town apart from Dewsbury. It bangs on about Dewsbury. And then, on a page after, it goes on about a great example of what you've done to regenerate is Pioneer House. Right? Pioneer House, everybody? Pioneer House in Dewsbury that the council has spent millions and millions on over lots of years. Oh, well, obviously, Peter McBride says he's very proud of it. Whippy. Yeah, well, let's think what the outcome is. You've spent millions and millions of pounds doing up an old building which you've had to pay the college to move into. They wouldn't even move in unless you gave them some money. So how is this a great example? If all you can do in one of the major towns in this borough is to do up a few old buildings and then pay people to move into them, is this what your economic strategy actually boils down to? Because it is absolutely dreadful. If that's the limit of the ambition, well, words fail me. Revitalising town centres. We can't even keep them clean. If you cleaned up the town centres, people might like to go to them, but that's absent as well. What about swinging some of your policies behind this stuff? Licensing policy, planning policy, local plan, as Councillor Cooper says, cultural policy, cultural strategy. This should all be part of economic plan. And all we see at the moment are strategies going this way and that way, and I can't see any evidence in here of them being joined up. They'll soon unravel if they're not joined up, and we'll be in another pretty pickle, and we'll be waiting another 10 years before we see any action from a Labour administration.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Pango? Yeah. Councillor McBride, right to reply, please.
Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor, could I just continue? May I continue, Madam Mayor?
One more. He is the proposer, Councillor McBride.
It's not.
Madam
Mayor, I will abide by your ruling. Councillor Bolt rarely abides by anybody's ruling, whether it be here or in West Yorkshire. I would just add to some of the comments I made. I'm not saying that this is a solution to all our problems. It's a strategy. It's a plan. Councillor Taylor, you commend the officers for their great work and so on, but not what they propose, as you did with the local plan. And Councillor Walker has revealed very well your ignorance of what has been available to the Council through scrutiny at many different stages. So the information has been there for you, but you've not been able to use it or respond to it. You didn't come to Cabinet when it came to Cabinet. The Huddersfield Master Plan is at the consultation stage, and the first to be consulted have been local councillors yesterday. All were fully consulted about Dewsbury Riverside and the Dewsbury Framework for Development. When we ask for your views on the local plan or the budget, you don't have any. You didn't have a plan. You didn't have an alternative budget. You had no proposals at all for the local plan. As far as Martin's concerned, Martin, this isn't a game. Martin, this is not a game. I explained to you at length yesterday at Cabinet how we would deal with the infrastructure relevant to the Riverside development. And obviously you're deaf or you do not wish to listen. Councillor said, I'm sorry, I'm replying to each individual, but cannot be interrupted by each individual.
Just sit down. Councillor McBride, please don't make personal comments like that. Councillor Bolt.
Madam Mayor.
Councillor Bolt, do you have a point of order?
A point of personal explanation, which the member should sit down for when I rise to speak. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor McBride is referring to infrastructure investment. Yes, I did raise it at Cabinet yesterday. On a point of personal explanation, a member may rise to correct a statement when he's been misunderstood. If you care to refresh, Madam Mayor, it was Councillor Taylor who referred to the infrastructure investment today. So therefore, when you're saying you want to correct me again, you're wrong again, Peter. You're correcting me for something which Councillor Taylor has said. Therefore, you owe me an apology. Yesterday. Madam Mayor, we are dealing with serious business of the Council. Yesterday.
Can we just move on, please?
Is to be responsible opposition, not game playing. Councillor Sims said there was no criteria to measure the outcomes. I tell you certainly there is, because I put them in there deliberately, personally. Councillor Lawson-Pinnock, I have no idea how Mrs May might reconfigure reality, but we have to plan on the basis that the laws of economics will operate despite her. Councillor Patrick, we're always addressing long-term flooding by planting millions of trees, not in the floodplain, but in the upper reaches of the river hinterland. Councillor Thompson talks about no sign of fibre connections, and as we speak, the cabling is going on in and around this town as we speak. All members will have seen it. Councillor Hall is desperate to be consulted, but like Councillor Taylor, has no views about the local plan or budget. So when they are consulted and fully informed, they have nothing to offer. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Members, using your consoles, please vote on the recommendation as moved by Councillor McBride. Thank you, members. That's been carried. Thank you. Can I remind members that we must complete items 10 and 11 this evening? Okay. Item 21. Oh. Councillor Pando.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I move that we take item number 20 after the motion item 21 under Council Procedure Rule 15.3? Can we have a vote on that, please?
Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Turner. Please can we vote by show of hands? Carried? That is carried, thank you. And again. Please. Still carried. Do you want best of three? Yep. Item 21. Motion under Council Procedure Rule 14 as to Council Procedure Rules. Councillor McBride, I've got your nod. I've got a proposal. I've got a proposal. Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The motion that we have in front of us, moved by the Liberal Democrats, the Conservatives, the Green Party Group and Councillor Greaves, is a simple motion and doesn't need much in the way of explanation. I don't intend to spend a lot of time moving it. It calls for a referral to Corporate Audit and Governance to review council procedure rules so that a reasonable chance can be given to councillors who wish to speak on important matters like the LDP or council budget can do so. We have called for this particular aspect of the procedure rules to be looked at as a matter of urgency for a few reasons. First, we feel that the review and any amendments should be carried out as swiftly as possible so that they can be in place for the next municipal year. Second, that having those amendments in place as quickly as possible will go a long way to showing the public that this council is committed to making its democratic processes as robust as possible. Third, that there shouldn't be a repeat of the scenes of the extraordinary council in February when 8 wards, a third of the council, weren't able to speak to something that affected every single ward in the borough. I'd add that there have been quite a few occasions in similar debates when strands of work have been picked out of the conversation is something that, that Councillor Sheard was particularly good at, I have to say. That kind of thing resulted in more joined-up ways of working, both in terms of councillor participation and about rounded results alongside and parallel to the motion in question. So, Madam Mayor, this motion respects the Mayor and the role of the Mayor, but we need to strengthen those procedural rules. The public needs to know that democracy in Kirklees, especially now, of all times, is as rigorous as can be. I commend this motion to the Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Is that seconded? Councillor David Hall?
Madam Mayor, and reserve the right.
Thank you, Councillor. Any comments on this motion? Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The great thing about democracy is it gives every voter a chance to do something stupid. So what is democracy? What do we understand as democracy in this chamber? Or more importantly, what do the electorate in Kirklees understand to be democracy? The people who vote to put us here. So we've heard a lot tonight about working across parties and about hearing Councillor Pando, we want to engage with other groups. And you know, it's been quite a reasonably cordial meeting tonight, so I want to keep the same vein when I'm speaking. I don't want to be antagonistic. But if you want to engage with other groups, then you need to allow ward members from all areas to speak on important issues like the local plan and the budget. And for the people in Kirklees who actually elect us as representatives, many of them contacted me a couple of weeks ago, and frankly, they were not impressed with the behaviour across this chamber. There are a lot of people here who are quite cross, myself included, and it's probably a lot better environment tonight, if I'm honest. So, we could do things better by not stifling debate, and I think I will just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor D. Hall, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The events at last council were to be regretted. It wasn't a good council. And I don't know whether the move to the vote of that council was planned or not. We probably will never know. But whatever the reason, it was very badly misjudged at that meeting, very badly. And I consider it to be an abuse of the power of the majority group on this council. Although it was in the scope of the procedural orders. And I think some members have a fundamental misunderstanding of why we're actually here. And we're here because we're elected by our residents, and our residents elect us to speak on their behalf. They have views. Hopefully when we put the pamphlets through the doors, we have things on it that concord with their views, and that's why we're here. And this was denied to us the last meeting. And it wasn't particularly our views that we were denied to express, it was the views of our residents we were denied to express, for no valid reason. And a lot of residents have been in touch since, and I think they're rightly outraged by what happened there. And I think that upon such vitally important matters, councillors should have a right to be heard. OK, we talk about a lot of stuff, we talk about some minor issues sometimes, and sometimes we all feel this debate's dragging on a bit, there are no new points to be had. Let's get on with it. I don't think that was the case last meeting, and I don't think on issues of such importance, on such gravity, it should be used. Democracy was not well served at that last meeting, and I hope we can agree to consider changing standing orders under this motion, so it may not happen again.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Cooper, please.
This is a relatively simple matter. It's not the local plan. And on that basis, because it is a simple matter and it's not as contentious, it shouldn't be as a local plan, I propose that we move to the vote. We have less than an hour to go when we're supposed to be holding the executive to account. Let's just pass this and move on.
Is that seconded? Okay, vote. Yeah, okay. Councillor Lawson, did you second? Second that. Okay. Right. Can we move to the vote then? Using your consoles, please. This is for voting to go to the vote. Voting to go to the vote on this motion. That has not been carried. Councillor Pandor, please.
I have to redo it, Madam Mayor.
We do notice there's a problem with Councillor Hughes's console. Councillor Pandor? I'll accept the amendment. Have we got a seconder for the amendments? Seconded. Thank you. Right. So I'm going to open for comments. And you moved it. Okay, Councillor Pounder moved it, Councillor Turner seconded it. I'm now going to open up for comments, and you need to tell us if you're speaking on the original motion or the amendment. Okay, thank you. So Councillor J. Taylor first, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll speak to the amendment. I'm a member of the Cross-Party Democracy Commission, and I've quite enjoyed the work that we've done as a group on that over the last 12 months. I think it sets this council in a good light when you reflect on what we're attempting to achieve. What happened at the last council meeting destroyed my trust in this council's ability to deliver on the spirit of the Democracy Commission, never mind the actual individual elements of it. If the Labour group is going to behave in a manner where it disregards the rights of other people to speak, there was no need to call an extraordinary general meeting if you just wanted to ram through the local plan by using your block votes. You could have had it an agenda item on the meeting. You organised a meeting with 3 hours put aside to it, and then you decided that you weren't prepared to allow members to speak. That is not in the spirit of what we have been working towards cross-party in terms of the Democracy Commission. It set a very poor example for our citizens and anyone who has observed that or read any of the reporting of it. And how are we supposed to, as a group, cross-party group, on that Democracy Commission, look our residents in the eye and say, we believe in democracy and ensuring everybody has a first say, when actually the actions in this chamber prove that to be false? And when the member that moved the move to a vote is quoted in the paper as saying he did so because he was irritated, it hardly paints us in a favourable light. I have been lobbied by other members of the cross-party group to not withdraw from the group, because my initial reaction after the meeting was I was going to play no longer any part in that cross-party group. And other members have lobbied me to say there is important work that we're doing. But for me, the jury's still out, and I will judge this administration by the way it behaves this evening and in subsequent weeks as we try to get and re-establish that trust and confidence that we will all have the right to speak and represent our residents. Because at the moment, it seems like you don't want that. And that is a shame, and that will put a cloud over the Democracy Commission, and it will put a cloud over the work that we're trying to do and bring forward in that space. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Bolt, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Cooper said, this should have been a relatively simple matter to discuss. The motion talked in the sentiment of examining the situation and bringing something back ready to change council procedure rules at the annual meeting. What we now have is a wrecking motion, pure and simple. We already know the way the numbers are stacking up, Madam Mayor. 29-27 will wreck the democratic process in this council, because like so much else that happens at the moment, this is being kicked so far into long grass. Refer it back to come for a meeting in the new municipal year. Madam Mayor, we've already had one important item referred back in the new municipal year. This should have been a matter to be taken with standing orders at the first meeting, the annual meeting of council. So why the Labour group want to stop that? They will be able to undertake input at the corporate governance and ordinance. If we look, Madam Mayor, at the importance they take on these all-party groups, I referred yesterday, and Peter, I'll refer again, to the fact that in January we had a motion for a climate emergency. It was imperative that the council did something. We were going to set up a group, we were going to employ a consultant, we were going to do research. We are 2 months past that. We are a third of the way into the time-limited process of that climate emergency group, and they haven't had a single meeting. It hasn't been referred to Cabinet to employ a consultant, and here we see again another important issue being kicked into the long grass. Madam Mayor, it was confirmed yesterday, I'm sorry the member wasn't at Cabinet, but it was, I hope she's feeling better. We are confirmed that nothing has happened. All that's happened in the time since we passed the climate emergency motion is the leader has flown out to Cannes and racked up his personal carbon footprint. This, Madam Mayor, just smacks in the face of everything that has happened. You know, we had the ridiculous situation where the biggest decision this council will make for 15 years was pushed through, with wards being underrepresented, with only a third of the council having had the chance to vote, and because of the sheer volume of numbers on the Labour side, areas were underrepresented. We had members voting through the local plan, but then telling their residents, but when a planning application comes forward relative to that, we'll campaign against it. How hypocritical. And here we are now stifling the change in public debate and enshrining that members will have that opportunity. Bring it back in the new municipal year. Shame on you.
Thank you, Councillor Bolt. Councillor Pandor, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't want to spoil the spirit of the conversation. I want to try and keep it civil because I completely understand where every single member is coming from. And what I want to do is I want to actually look at the totality of the thing, and I give you my personal undertaking that this motion that you put forward will be taken into full consideration as part of what I am going to propose in this motion. Despite the negative publicity and the reporting around what happened at the last council meeting, please believe me when I say that I've got no intention to undermine democracy in this council chamber. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to a lot of members in this council chamber. So please do not assume what's in my heart and what's in my head. Listen to what I'm saying. Madam Mayor, the debate needs to be opened. And one way to open the debate is to actually make sure we don't just look at things in isolation, but there is a lot of things that we do in this council chamber and we're not engaging properly with our residents. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself. I might have to talk to the brick wall, I'll be honest with you. Yeah? This is an opportunity to actually look at a complete shooting match around our democracy and how it's delivered. I value the work that Democracy Commission has done. We've got our own members who are on that panel. Councillor Cooper genuinely has been doing a lot of good work, same as Councillor John Taylor, genuinely doing great work, and Councillor Lawson. Let's look at how we can actually take democracy out of there into our communities. So this is not about what we do in this council chamber. This is about how we treat our communities. So that's on the back of what this is about. But I give you my undertaking, what you have put in your motion, I fully guarantee you that will be taken into account. And I hope for the challenges we face moving forward, for the sake of democracy in this borough and in this council chamber, please do get behind this. If you don't want to vote for it, abstain. But believe me, the intention is there. What happened last time, I can't turn the clock back. But let's learn and move forward, and let's look at the whole thing, how we actually do business in the council chamber. Because a lot of stuff that happens in this council chamber doesn't really happen here. A lot of the good decisions we make, a lot of the good ideas we generate, and the stuff that all the councillors do across the chamber, is done outside the council chamber. I'll give you one quick example, Madam Mayor. The council work that the fair trade work Julie Stewart-Turner does, she just gets on with it. But we want to make sure we recognise that. And we want to make sure we actually engage all our communities. So please get behind this motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Councillor Cooper, please.
This is really disappointing. This was the most simple thing to actually agree and pass. Just read it. You know, Council Government Orders Committee be asked to consider how council procedures can be amended, consider and to ensure members have a reasonable chance to speak and the public has been properly represented. Really simple, really straightforward. And we've heard Councillor Pandor say, I have no desire to undermine democracy. Well, this, by simply negating this with this amendment, I tried to save you from yourself. You know, by actually getting this put to the vote. You know, that meant you could move on. Now you've just made the thing last a bit longer, and made the whole issue last a bit longer. So sometimes people say to me, you know, you're a bit of a lefty. Why don't you join the Labour Party? And it was always, for me, it was a culture thing. It was always like, you know, it was about we know best. It was that attitude that I sort of get from Labour politicians. We're in charge. We know best. And that for me was why I never really sort of gelled with the Labour Party. I know that's not true of everybody in the Labour Party, but when you see stuff like this, you look at it and you think that confirms a prejudice, that confirms a view I had. So you've made a mistake by actually putting this amendment. You should have drawn a line under this. It's a lack of wisdom in putting this amendment forward. It really is.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Lawson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know this was a simple motion. The original motion was a simple motion. I know because I wrote it, and I'm a simple fellow. Why the Labour Party have been moved to what Councillor Bolt described as a wrecking motion, I would describe as a smothering motion. It was a drowning motion. It's designed to lose this very simple ask of council. It's designed to smother it. It's designed to bury it, whatever metaphor you want to use. It is a mistake, and it compounds the mistake that was made during the LDP Extraordinary Council. It makes it worse. You are in a hole and you are digging fast. And I'm very saddened. And I was one of the Democracy Commission members who lobbied Councillor Taylor not to sort of withdraw his services. But while we're on it, I will sort of mention the good work that Councillor Scott does as chair. She would seem to be missed out of the role of honour there. Deeply saddened by this. Deeply saddened. I don't know where we go from here for forward from this. It's going to take a lot for us to move from where we are, and you're moving further away and further away all the time. So I'm almost lost for words. You've dug yourself into a position here where you won't get out, and you will sort of reap what you sow, I'm afraid. You have made this bed, it's time to lie on it.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Councillor Pattison, please.
Thank you. I'm not saddened. I'm pleased. I've been longing for to see something like this in all the 8 years that I've been on this council. It is a simple matter still, and it's not being kicked into the long grass. We've got an opportunity here to actually look at the whole caboodle, as Councillor Pandora has said. I mean, regardless of what happened at the last meeting, there's been lots of things that have been wrong with our procedure rules for a long time. And I'm fed up with talking about potholes and bus stops and never getting to the motions that we should be talking about, or talking about the policies, or even having to rush through some of the really important decisions around the budget even, or around other policies that we have to have and we have to pass in a particular council meeting, because we've been talking about potholes for a long time, because people have the opportunity to talk these things out. I remember council meetings in this chamber going back many years, and they weren't like that. They were open and more meaningful, and they can be again. And we can have proper debates here, and that's what we should be doing. I think this motion, simple, gives us the opportunity to look at everything that we do in this chamber and make it worthwhile.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. Councillor Lees-Hamilton, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to speak to the amendment. Obviously, I won't be supporting it. I am very, very disappointed, Councillor Pandor. And I echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Even if I wanted to support it, I couldn't, because I'm not really sure why we're going to request officers to undertake work to inform a report to corporate governance. They're either going to form a report, they're going to prepare a report, but to inform is to tell someone facts or information. So basically, this motion says you're going to request officers to undertake work to tell someone facts or information, a report. It doesn't make sense to undermine the original motion, but this makes even less sense. I don't get it. I don't get it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lees-Hamilton. Councillor Mather, please.
I think sometimes in this chamber, the opposition parties are rather delusional. I don't think when you talk about democracy that it's a prerogative of opposition parties, especially when they don't actually join in and vote for what makes sense in making our borough, our district, great. We may be behind, we may not be, we may not be the first, but we don't want to be the last. When we're doing good work, we need support. And as for the Climate Emergency Working Party not doing anything, it's gone, nobody's checked. We're actually meeting next week. We're meeting 28th of March, and it took time to agree the dates, and we worked on the terms of reference, and the Climate Emergency motion, cross-working party, will do the work that it was asked for in that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I am actually going to have to close the list now because, like I did say prior to this item, that we do have to get through 10 and 11 tonight. Councillor Griffiths, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I think if there's one thing we've proven tonight, it's that democracy is a very difficult concept, and we'll probably have 69 different ideas of it. And it's true that one of the worst risks to democracy is agenda setting, so that we end up talking about trivia rather than the important things. So I do hope that we can get round to those soon. I would like to support the amendment simply in order to get on. It is coming back to the first meeting in the new municipal year, and I think it'll be a good thing if we can discuss it then. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Councillor Patrick, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, this is just another fudge by the Labour group. Labour are not interested in listening to anyone with a different view to them. Councillor McBride said a little earlier that the opposition groups don't have an opinion on the local plan, but he knows that's not true. We do, and we've expressed our opinion over the last 10 years. And some of us attended the public inquiry on more than one occasion to represent our communities. We're here today to hold the executive to account. That's the title on the front of the papers. But the chances are we will not get to item 16. And we've been here so many times before under this Labour group. The order of the agenda is so ordered that we never do get to hold the executive to account. Labour are simply not interested in opposition, they're not interested in challenge, they're not interested in scrutiny, they're not interested in listening. We know Labour is a majority, but the Labour group should respect, and that's a word the Mayor uses frequently, the Labour group should respect the democratic process and listen to other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll really rise to say that I agree completely with Councillor Cooper and Councillor Lawson. I mean, Councillor Patterson makes the point that agendas have been loaded with items that don't warrant it. And when we're talking about this issue, we're talking about the budget and the local plan, probably the two most important issues that this council discusses throughout the year, and in the case of the local plan, probably in the last 10 years. So, I do take the point to a degree at times, but the specific incidents which has provoked this debate is actually two of the most important issues we could ever be discussing. Councillor Mather, I mean, you make the point for me, actually. You call the opposition delusional because we didn't support the great work that you were doing. Now, I mean, what else is there to say? We're delusional because we don't agree with you. And that really just, that makes the point better than I could ever make it. I'm just going to read briefly. Democracy is a means for the people to choose their leaders and to hold their leaders accountable for their policies and their conduct in office. So, the original motion that was proposed, there was nothing wrong with it. there can be no other explanation for this amendment than the fact that, I mean, I speak to Councillor Pandor outside of this chamber, and I honestly believe he's a decent chap, and I honestly believe what he said. I honestly believe what you said a minute ago about wanting to take note of the amendment. The problem is that there was no need to make an amendment to the motion. The motion itself respected democracy. There was no reason to amend the motion. So, you're going back to the original time that the budget was discussed, and the the motion was raised to cut the meeting short. At that point, if I had been the leader of a group that had chosen to make that decision, I would have gone back to my group and have said, look, chaps, this doesn't look very good. The people of Kirklees will not respect us for doing this. That can't have happened, because 2 weeks later, when discussing the local plan, exactly the same thing happened again. So, there was no need for an amendment. The motion said everything it needed to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Scott, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's disappointing tonight that democracy hasn't prevailed, and I'm going to talk on the amendment. I've wrestled with this, and I think it's a shame that the Democracy Commission's work and people's voices have been lost in this tonight. We're playing politics. I know that's part of the chamber, but with the Democracy Commission, John T, John L, Rob and Andrew have been crucial in working in this cross-party. And I think we've got to understand this. We're about representing the local people, and that's what all of us were elected to do. So I am disappointed that we can't come to something on this, but I would hope that if this does go away and we undertake some work, that the Democracy Commission are part of that work with the Governance and Audit Committee, so that we can have our input to it as well. Because I think it's crucial, because we started on a journey and we did say that people, the citizens of Kirklees, were the future and they were part of this democracy and we were going to take it forward. So I'm disappointed that things haven't gone to how as planned. I thought it would be a good informed debate and people would reason and understand that we are going away. We want to look at procedurals. I find it very frustrating sometimes that we can't talk about motions that we're bringing or issues that are local to our wards. And that's what the people out there are expecting from us. They don't want to see us stuck under things that we can't, and people bobbing up and down, bad behaviour, poor behaviour in this chamber. I think what we need to do is underpin the values of this council by saying that the people are the most important thing that we're representing here today. So, whilst I am supporting our amendment, I do hope that they inform, and John and all the other democracy commissioners that have been involved in this still continue to be part of it.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Upall, please.
Sorry, having problems with my chair here. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I recognise that there's been a lot of upset and a lot of hurt over the last month, and I think we all need to think about that. We all need to reflect on that and think about how we move forward. What I would say is I do think generally the council procedure rules do need to be looked at, and I think the amendment does provide us an opportunity to look overall at the procedure rules. The one thing I want to say is that I've been trying to bring a motion on universal credit since I think about October. It affects some of our most vulnerable, some of our most poorest residents, and we've not got there. We've not got there yet, and it's unlikely that we're going to be able to have a debate on it today. And I would really like us together as a chamber to be able to debate this issue, because this affects residents across all our wards, across this borough, across this country, and I'm sure lots of people want to have a significant debate about that. So I would like to look at how do we bring motions like this forward, how do backbenchers have a voice in chamber, as well as making sure that opposition parties are able to effectively hold the executive to account. That is really important. I hope we're all able to come together. I think Councillor Scott made a very good point about the Democracy Commission and making sure that they're involved with the amendment if it passes. I just want to say one other thing. Language matters and our behaviour matters. We have to look at how our behaviour, how that impacts on anyone that's watching. I know we probably don't get millions of views on the webcast, but how is our behaviour being impacted? How does that look to our residents? And I've got to say, as a new member, some of the behaviour has been quite appalling. We're shouting over each other. We're not giving members from across the chamber respect when they're speaking, and it's really important that we do that. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Uppal. Councillor Bellamy, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please can I ask the Chief Executive to clarify which is the first council meeting of the municipal year? Because my understanding is that it will be the meeting following the mayoral installation. That's the 22nd of May.
The proposed dates for council meetings in the new municipal year will be put forward to Corporate Governance and Audit Committee at the next meeting. I think the proposal is for the first meeting to take place in the first week of July. The first ordinary meeting of the municipal year. Leader, could you please clarify what you're amending?
I'll just say that we'll just endeavour to bring it to your first meeting. We can, but we'll undertake to bring it.
Councillor Pounder.
Madam Mayor, I don't have my diary with me, but whatever day is in our diaries for the new municipal year, that is the day I'm aiming for.
Jinxed it when I said for the last time, and hopefully for the last time, please be seated. Can we have a bit of hush, please? Time is knocking on. I'm going to pass over to the Chief Executive.
Thank you, members. I have clarified the wording of the amendment, and what we are agreeing is that a report will come back to the Council at the first meeting in the new municipal year, which is the AGM.
Thank you. Moving on, please. Councillor Holmes.
I hope you're going to take this in the spirit it's intended. I think this council is becoming broken. I think we are failing to work together. We're failing in cross-party discussions. The budget was one example and the local plan was another. The local plan wasn't democratic. The extraordinary council was not democratic. We had an hour to go. One of the Labour members stood up, cut discussions, and that was it. So I think I can kind of forgive Councillor Taylor
if he feels that democracy is kind of something that's not really been taken seriously, because I don't think it is either. You know, we have motions that aren't being heard in council. Quite honestly, I think you should just write your letter. You're the administration. You flex your muscles as being the ruling party when it matters to you. But on something like this amendment, universal credit, I've got residents who are in dire straits with universal credit. I'm totally with you. Just write the letter. Yeah? Just do it. Why wait for a council meeting on something so important? Pardon? Why do you need to debate that? Just write the letter and get something going. And then if you get to do a motion later, do that as well. I don't understand why you feel it's such a barrier to you, and why you would wait on something so important. If it's so important to you, just get the letter written from the administration. You've got your leader there. Just do it. I don't understand. I don't like making excuses for stuff. I went to Councillor Mather. I asked on an email for rates of fly tipping across Kirklees and on my ward before the household waste site changes happened and after. So last
Sorry,
year.
councillors, can you stick to the motion?
Yeah, I'm sticking to the motion. I'm talking about how we can't even talk about things. I've had to bring that to a meeting which is holding up business in questions because I couldn't even go to a cabinet member and ask a question. I was referred to council inquiries at place. You don't work with us. Strip all that out of council meetings, answer questions. Councillor Turner, you don't reply to emails either. Well, you know there's one outstanding. Democracy takes people working together. If we're going to work against each other all the time, all we're going to have is Labour making all the decisions in group, nobody discussing anything. You cut us out of budget discussions. For the first time this year, there was no discussion. Just admit your amendment doesn't need to be there and just go on motion.
Last one, Councillor Hall, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to pick up on some comments that have been made in the debate. Councillor Pandor said a lot about democracy, and he said, trust me, because he does believe in democracy. My reading of Labour democracy is when Mr Corbyn was invited to all-party talks on Brexit, and when he walked in, there was the leader of the independent group there, and he walked out and went home. That's Labour democracy. The problem is, I actually believe what Councillor Pandor says. I do think he's right. I think he does want democracy. I does think he believes in democracy. I hope we all do. But I'm not sure he's actually in control of his group. I think there is in his group who actually don't believe in democracy. And I think Councillor Pandor is a more astute politician than to have brought this amendment here on his own bat. I suspect it's been foisted on him by his group. And of course, the Labour group should have just drawn a line under this. What we should have had is, OK, it went wrong, we shouldn't have really done that. Lessons learned, vote for the motion, off we go. It would have been done an hour since. And instead, what we have is an attempt to push it into the long grass. And we've seen that before. This is how they do things. We have an attempt to dilute the motion, so it actually makes no reference to the important issues. Because this is what we're on about. We're on about those important issues that by statute we have to debate in this chamber, and we want an assurance that we will have the right to speak on those things. Councillor Uppal, I thought, talked a lot of sense. Congratulations to you. I thought what you said was very good. And Councillor Patterson put a brave face on it, trying to justify why this amendment is coming in, but didn't really succeed. Because it's not the fact that we don't agree with an amendment, because actually I think if that was a motion that had been brought to a council meeting, we'd have all said, yeah, it's about time we had a review of CPRs. Yeah, it is. But that's not the point in this case. The point is the original motion put down a marker, and that marker was to say we don't feel that some councillors in this chamber ought to be denied the right to speak on certain matters. And what the amendment does is completely kick that into touch. And what we get, actually, is, you know, meaning for open debate, blah, blah, blah. And then we've just heard, actually, what should happen is that should be considered by Corporate Governance and Audit Committee. That may be right. Councillor Scott's right. The Democracy Commission should have an input into that. Dead right. So we've got two committees there who have both got to discuss this in tandem, and they're going to report back on the whole of the CPRs. If anybody's read them, they run into pages and pages, and they've got to do it before May the 22nd, 23rd, whatever the date is. That is absolutely, plainly inconceivable. There is no way, and the Labour leader should acknowledge, there is no way that is going to be done by May. It's absolutely off this planet. You're talking about reviewing pages and pages of standing orders that have been there for years and years. By the way, you've never wanted to change them up to now, apart from this one, when this turns up. And you're going to achieve it by May, and you expect us to vote for it? Absolutely no way. It's the unfortunate thing about this is this amendment should not have been made. You've dug yourself into a deeper hole. We should have stuck with the motion, drawn a line under it, and unfortunately this is not going to come off very well for you this time.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. So, using your counsels, we're now going to move to the vote on the amendment, please. That motion has been carried. Councillor Pandor, right to reply. Okay, so we're going to vote on the substantive using your counsels, please. Substantive as amended. Yeah, thank you, members. That is carried. Members, can we have a bit of hush, please? We've got about 7 minutes left, and we must complete items 10 and 11. Councillor Hall, please.
Madam Mayor, may I suggest that under Procedure Rules 15, paragraph 3, that we move straight to items 10 and 11 and get them done by 9 o'clock?
That's what I said, but thank you. It's nice to have an echo. Members, item 10, page 85, 2019-2020, report of members' allowances, independent review panel. Councillor Richards, please.
Approves the recommendations of the members' allowances in independent review panel to determine the 2019-20 members' allowance scheme, with effect from the 1st of April 2019.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. Is that seconded? Councillor Stewart-Turner.
I'm seconding that, and I'd like to very briefly say that I'm really happy to support the work of the independent review panel, because when I looked at those names on the list, some of them were there when I joined the council and probably been involved longer than I have, so they've got a massive wealth of experience and an amazing commitment. They do this work as volunteers, and they come from a very professional business and academic background, and I think they all deserve our thanks and appreciation for all the time they put in. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments on this matter? Councillor D Hall, please.
To propose an amendment to see, which is to delete the second paragraph from the recommendations and to retain the first paragraph. So the recommendations would read: the current basic allowance be increased in line with the amount awarded to Kirklees council officers 2% with effect from 1st of April 2019. The effect of the amendment, of course, is to not approve SRAs for either the Chair of Standards or small group business managers. And that is not directed to individuals in this chamber, Madam Mayor, because of course that's irrelevant to who occupies those posts. But we don't feel that those two posts do sufficient responsibility or work to earn that SRA.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Is that seconded? Councillor Holmes?
Second, and reserve the right. Thank you.
Using your consoles, move to the vote on the amendment then, please. Okay, that's fallen. Can we move then to the vote on the original, please? Using your consoles. Thank you, members. That is carried. Item 11, page 101, policy statement. Councillor Turner, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Can I just take the opportunity to thank you for the hard work and commitment you have shown during your term as Mayor. You've been a credit to us all in your representation of the Council over the last year. You will also manage meetings in a calm and ordered manner, despite the odd difficult meetings. Not bad for a battle class. Madam Mayor, I move the report on as in today's agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Is that seconded? Councillor Pandor?
Madam Mayor, I second that. Reserve the right.
Using your consoles, please, can we move to the vote? Thank you, members. That is carried. Can we just have, members, please, can we just have a bit of hush for one moment? Following on from Councillor Turner's the Batley lass, it's been an absolute honour and privilege to have been the Mayor of Kirklees. And two of the most common questions that is asked of me, particularly amongst young people, the first is, what is the best bit about being the Mayor of Kirklees? And that is having had the opportunity to have met so many wonderful people that we would not have had the chance to do. The other question is, what's the worst bit? And I always turn that round and say, well, actually, I won't say it's the worst bit, it's the most challenging bit. My challenge is now over. I'm close the meeting, thank you.